Hello, church family. Today is Walk the Walk Wednesday. And if you missed the Recap Monday video from Monday, make sure you go back and check that out. Albert did a great job recapping the message from Sunday that Pastor Joe gave from John chapter 13 in our series that is called to be Christ-like. And it was a great recap that talked about how to love one another. And the big idea from Sunday from Pastor Joe's message was Jesus washed Judas's feet too. And so it was a lot about service in a way that goes above and beyond what someone might expect to show love to one another. So when Jesus washed the disciples' feet, and especially Judas's feet, it was an act of service and an expression of his love that was above and beyond what they would have expected from their leader, to take such a humble position of service to serve them, and especially Judas, who he knew would be betraying him. And so we're talking about how can we be Christ-like? How can we love others the way that Jesus does? How can we serve others the way that Jesus does in a humble way that shows love and that would be like washing the disciples' feet? So Walk the Walk Wednesday, how do we do that? We're going to get really practical, and I want to look at the story of the Good Samaritan from Luke chapter 10, because it has some really great practical ways in the parable that Jesus told to an expert in the law of the Good Samaritan. So most of you are probably familiar with the story of the Good Samaritan, so just a quick recap. An expert in the law is trying to test Jesus and says, how do I have it? How do I get eternal life? And Jesus reminds him of what the law says. To love the Lord your God with all your heart, soul, strength, mind, and love your neighbor as yourself. And so to justify himself, the expert in the law is saying, well, who is my neighbor? And Jesus tells the parable of the Good Samaritan. And the Samaritan in this story would be considered the enemy of the man who was walking down the road, and robbers came out, beat him up, stole his stuff, and left him on the road, and was passed by a couple people who should have been his neighbors, should have been the people who stopped to help him, but they didn't. And so a couple really practical things that the Good Samaritan did to help this man who he would consider an enemy. He sacrificed his time, because I'm sure that Samaritan man wasn't walking down the road just looking for someone to help on that day. Certainly he had plans and he was busy and he was going somewhere when he was walking down the road. But instead of doing that, he sacrificed his time to see if the man was okay, bandage his wounds, take him to an inn where he could be cared for further. He sacrificed his belongings because he put the man on his own donkey to travel with him, to take him to an inn. He sacrificed his money because he paid the innkeeper to look after the man and said, I'll come back and check on him and I'll pay for anything that you had to do that was more than what I already gave you. So the Samaritan went above and beyond what would have been expected of him. The Samaritan could have just ignored the man completely, could have even made fun of the man because he was an enemy, but instead he completely changed that and cared for him and sacrificed his personal things to care for this man who would have been considered his enemy. So as we look at that story that Jesus told, and we want to find ways that we can be Christ-like. I don't know about you. In my personal life, I don't feel like I'm presented with many opportunities to care for someone that I would consider an enemy. I don't consider many people an enemy to myself. Maybe that's the problem. But I think that there are certainly ways that we can behave and treat people that goes above and beyond what someone would expect. And so maybe this week is a great week to look out for opportunities like that. See what might present itself in your personal life in a way that you can go above and beyond what someone would expect for you to do. How can you show love, as Albert was talking about on Monday, that's over and above what someone would expect? I know this week is elections. When you're watching this on Wednesday, elections will be over. But it's been such a time for relationships to be strained, or our opinions to be so polarizing, and I feel like there's been a lot of anxiety or people like lashing out or talking out and being extra opinionated lately, is this a week that is going to present some opportunities for you to be able to show loving kindness to someone who might not expect it from you this week. I don't know how that's going to play out in your life, but as you look at how you're called to be Christ-like and how you can be Christ-like in your daily life, in your family, in your work, in your neighborhood, in whatever you do in your day-to-day life, look for those opportunities to go above and beyond and show that extra loving kindness this week as you walk the walk. So I hope that is encouraging to you, church family, and enjoy the rest of your week.